What's going on for victims and villains? My name is Josh. Today I'm joined by Brandon and Colleen from the band Wine and Warpaint. How are you guys doing today?
So good.
Great.
Better now.
Yeah, it's a Monday, but what is not a Monday is this awesome show that you guys are going to be a part of in about less than 2 weeks, and I'm super stoked for it. And I think out of every band that is on this bill, you guys probably have the most interesting origin story. Because this started out as like how did Wine and Warpaint start? Because it started out as a solo project, correct?
Oh yeah. That is interesting. I really thought of it as
I know. I like chuckled.
Yeah, I was like, I guess that's interesting. Yeah, it was almost reactionary the way it started. So like I played in a band in college, and two of those players that were in that band play in Wine and Warpaint now. But it was the type of thing where you have so many cooks in the kitchen working on music, and then when you finally start making stuff on your own, it's just like, I don't even know if this is ever going to be a thing, but like I can like do what I want. I don't have to ask anybody's opinion, and like and so it was reactionary almost in that way. And then we joke about how like it seemed like every year we like added a new member.
Player. Yeah.
So it was like first it was just me, and I was like demoing stuff out, and me and Hunter were the first ones to go and record the first EP with Matt Goldman in Atlanta. And then the first show we brought Taylor in and did it as a 3-piece, and then the next year Colleen came in and we did 4, and then the year after that Hannah joined, and now that's kind of been like the stable 5-piece ever since then. I don't know if that was the interesting part in your mind. Maybe that's what popped into my head.
Yeah, just it's net. Most bands that I've had the pleasure of interviewing over the last few years have been like, yeah, we were friends in college, and we jammed in high school, or we were all part of like the local scene. And so to kind of have a band that grows from a solo project into an actual like full-fledged band is impressive, and it's not every day that you hear that's a story like that. And but yeah, so can you kind of talk about how the writing process shifted as the evolution of Wine and Warpaint kind of moved away from more of a collaborative effort and less of a solo project?
Yeah, definitely. It's like I think just getting out of the it's kind of cresting still that like solo kind of vibe still. Like I'd still say, at least on the full-length album that's coming up, every work has gotten more collaborative. So on the one that's coming up, like it used to be, because Hunter played the drums on the first EP and I played everything else, and then the second EP I did everything, and then this one I play most of the things, but then we like straight up 50-50 co-wrote 2 songs.
Yeah.
And then Hannah and I 50-50 co-wrote 1 song. And then we did one. There's one song on the record that's all 5 of us. That was, we went into Tay as an engineer at In Your Ear Studios in Richmond, and we literally just booked a day in his room and came in with nothing. We had an empty Pro Tools session, and we're just like, I have a general idea, and like, awesome. Let's all 5 of us like collab together and come up with something.
Yeah, which was sweet.
Yeah, and that's different than what I was expecting for sure.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know. How do you see that evolution?
Yeah,
because Colleen's my best buddy, so like, was there like kind of like every step of the way, even when it was like more like insular?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's accurate. Brandon is able to flawlessly play and write, so has done that himself. But I think, it's my opinion, in my opinion, I guess. But yeah, he started to kind of, I think, realize that he wants to let other people in, not out of like a necessity to having like a lack in those things, but just wanting to have more of that collaboration. And yeah, for me, it started with just like jumping in, singing background vocals, so he didn't have to do all the background vocals on certain songs that he would ask. And then from there, it's just turned into all of us kind of jumping in and helping out or adding stuff here or there. So, but it's still very much, yeah, it's still cresting, I guess. That's a good way
it's
to
still
say
a
it.
lot of, I think, like, I'd be interested to see how the next record goes, because this one is still like a lot, still has vestiges of like, there's some songs that I just did myself almost completely.
Yeah.
But every song actually at this point, Taylor has had a hand in, for
That's
sure.
true.
So like and that's new. I would take it to his room and he'd produce it out.
Yeah.
And we'd re-record some stuff, and like he's a phenomenal keyboardist and has some beautiful synths in his room. So we would replace all my crappy soft synths with his beautiful analog synths.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
his tasty taste.
Yeah.
it's also not every day too that you kind of hear a band talking about the writing process, specifically the way that you guys have. How did you kind of come across still being able to have as much control, or bouncing ideas off of one another? Like, what is the relationship like between between you and also like the rest of the band?
That's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, it's family first, really. Like it's
Yeah.
like this is like chosen family, like really close friends. And so like that I think permeates everything more than like I don't know. I would rather have that consistent than have, than to have an efficient songwriting process or something. So I guess, but I don't know. I think it's kind of freed up in the sense that like Colleen does like her solo project Margot that we collaborate on a lot, kind of in an equal distribution almost. Like
right, yeah.
in the if Wine and Warpaint's like 80-20 me, like Margot's like maybe even more than 80%, but I'll like pop in and like help out with some stuff.
Yeah.
And then Taylor's got a solo project, and like
we all
like play in that and like do that. So there's something kind of freeing about like Wine and Warpaint being like, oh, it's like running through Brando's head, and like I think that takes a certain amount of pressure off.
Yeah, totally.
But like I feel a ton of joy with like the song that's forthcoming, Bad Nihilist. Like that's like half and half you and me. Like it makes me really happy to be like, oh my gosh, this is like a really fun song that Colleen and I wrote together. Or there's another song that we co-wrote that I showed to people, and they're like, wow, that sounds like a complete mix between like Margot and Wine and Warpaint.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
And I really like that. I think I really enjoy that. So and I hope that that's like, it's always my hope that that's like freeing and not like limiting and stuff. And I just kind of feel like we all are supporting each other's stuff in different ways anyway. So
yeah, I think we're all like, I mean, there's so much history too of playing together at this point. Even like all of us, like you and Hunter and Taylor definitely have like the longest stretch of time playing together. But I think the like relationship that's developed in just playing shows together then kind of bleeds into everything else too, outside of like the family aspect that we all have. Just as like musicians together in a room, it's just so easy to have a language that you're speaking when you're discussing like writing a new song or workshopping or producing or whatever. So there's a lot of that too that I think just like has fed that energy of playing so many shows together.
That's true.
So
yeah. And we kind of all do a lot of different stuff too. So it's like Colleen like plays guitar, bass, keys, vocals, and produces, and like Taylor's similar. And Hannah like plays guitar in our band, but is the best piano player I've ever met.
Like insane.
She's like, I knew people
classically
like she's
trained,
classically
like,
trained, like absolutely ripping like Chopin from memory. Like, and we have her playing electric guitar in a pop punk band. Like, so that's all I think part of it too. Like, it's all informing each other a lot.
Yeah.
What's a great segue into the structure of shows and kind of bringing that live performance, because I think like to pull from like other popular bands, I think the Almost is a great kind of comparison, where it started out as this like solo thing, and then it kind of grew into this like big collaborative effort. And so how were you guys able to really kind of take a lot of that family first mentality, translate that into shows, and still retain the vision of Wine and Warpaint?
Yeah, I think like the vision's congruent the whole time. I think that's part of what like the fact that we are all kind of just close at that personal level means that like I connect with people at that, like we connect personally. So since the connection at that level is good, like my connection with the band is very personal. So all of that kind of flows really easily. It's mostly just like, it's just all gravy, man. Like it's all better.
It's like funny to think of.
Yeah. It's like everything is better when we're all able to do it together. I think like we're doing a tour run in May that not all of us can make just because of the stage that we're at with the band right now. And like, I like love that. I love what everyone's doing that keeps them from coming on this tour. But like the thing, it just makes me sad because I want to be with them. Like I want to like
everyone wants to hang out.
It's like, it's like we'll cover the parts. Like we'll figure something out. Like our friend Abby, who helps us with a lot of like media stuff and also filled in on drums for a bunch of things. Like she's able to like play drums for us, but like I just am bummed that Hunter can't be there because I love Hunter.
Totally,
Like we'll
yeah.
get the parts
Who's
covered.
gonna quote SpongeBob with me?
Colleen will throw out SpongeBob quotes to a van and just get echoes in return.
Yeah, it's gonna be real
Hunter's not
quiet.
Yeah, it's just every time it's better. I
Yeah.
think it's like it's just such a joy
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah, totally. I agree with all that.
Well, Colleen, as a SpongeBob fan myself,
Come on now.
What is your go-to quote for people on the road?
Oh, on the road? Firmly grasp it is always good. That one is just like if you're pushing a road case, if you're like picking something up, like firmly grasp it goes so long. And most of the time people know that one too. So that one's easy to please like a general crowd. But personally, Hunter and I think we both would say our favorite SpongeBob episode is Shanghai. And so we quote that one a lot too.
Okay.
Just like the trippy, like Flying Dutchman one where they just let the writers go off and do
So
whatever.
they're into the perfume department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I feel like they have a competition to make like the most obscure reference
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
see who can get it.
There's some.
And they don't ever miss.
There's some really funny ones. Hannah, truthfully, has come in before though, and like completely, I think, surprised. I mean, she's got like a wealth of knowledge, maybe more in SpongeBob than she lets on, because there was one where we were like loading the van for a show, and Hunter, for some reason, just randomly was like telling us that his mom got him these new shoes and he was excited about them, but he's like, my mom got me these. And then like Hannah came in with this congratulations buddy, which is a Bubble Buddy reference. And it's a deep cut.
Over here, man.
It's deep.
It's real deep. It's a deep well.
But I was like, what? Hands.
You too?
Yeah, it was good. So it is a
it's-
1-up.
It's a little bit off topic real quick, but I just want to throw this out there because Bruce Campbell also just threw it out there. But in like one of like the most recent episodes, is within like the last like 3 months, apparently there's an actual reference to the Evil Dead where they brought in the Necronomicon, and it's canonical in SpongeBob's.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
So
That
I
is
don't
the
know if you
next
guys knew that.
evolution, man.
Yeah,
That is the
that's-
next evolution.
That is wild. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's canon.
It's like what?
Oh my god.
Wow.
Well, to bring it back to you guys, one of the things that has been for this series that we're doing, Artists You Should Know in 2024, the basic question that is a lot of kind of the foundry questions for these interviews are, where does the name of the band come from? Wine and Warpaint is obviously, we joked about it, the Wine and Paint Nights, but
Yes.
before we started recording, but where the Wine and Warpaint, where does the name come from?
Yeah.
From Wine and Paint.
Wine and Paint Nights. I just love Wine and Paint Nights. It was
Just
like,
kidding,
how
it's
do
so
I?
good. How do I use this more?
We did say off before we started recording to keep an eye out for the Wine and Paint Night. Surely forthcoming. It's a satisfying alliteration. That's primary number one. But it's juxtaposition. It's like an image of like wine and civility, like evokes images of like civility and kind of like a proper like nature. It is meant to kind of like, for people who are into it, like make you think of Eucharist or like things like within like religious tradition or Christian tradition. That's like all like stuff that we're kind of interested in talking about and discussing and unpacking or forgetting or saying fuck this shit to, or no, let's embrace this shit. Like I'm into some of it, not into others of it, kind of engaging all that. And then Warpaint being like something done by cultures on every continent over like the history of human like history, of a beautiful act of art before an act of violence. And how that juxtaposition even of itself like holds a lot of like intrigue and interest. And so you kind of take those two things and combining it with like civility and calm with kinetic art is maybe the thought of like something that I know we want to explore in terms of like the music and what the art is at every level. So I want to explore that thematically. Like I want to say like I'm into this and I don't like this in the same song. I want us to be heavier than anyone wants us to be. I want us to be way softer and more like ballady than anyone wants us to be. Like I think like that's something that I'm interested in, I know that we're interested in, like, and we have, like, that's the music we like, is the stuff that like uses all the tools available to us to kind of explore all of that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that, or like?
No, I mean, I feel like you covered it. It's a fun question we've asked. I think you pitched it one time to like the group after a practice, just like, what do you guys think? Like, what does wine and Warpaint mean to you? And I remember us all sitting and talking about it, but I can't remember exactly what I said then, but it does feel like a balance between that light and dark, and also emphasizing the like community aspect that I feel like is so important to all of us, but Brandon especially, of like trying to bring in the people, like wine being something you have in community together, and whatever that way looks, but doesn't have to be physical wine, obviously, but that the idea of like being in community together over a drink or around a table, but then also like in the Warpaint part being like kind of and also in strength together, not just in the fun times where you're
that's right,
chatting and dipping bread in oil, but you're also like able to kind of be there for each other in the darker moments and kind of be like a strengthened front. I feel like that's a lot of the message too of the music. So
being a multimedia nonprofit that specifically harkens in on opening the conversation, the dialogue on mental health, and how community is at the core of that. And one of the things that I think that you just hit on perfectly is that the defining factors of a lasting community are going to be the people that are there for you during the wine times and the Warpaint times. They're going to be there for the light times and the dark times. And I think what's fascinating to me, and part of the reason that I really love the sound of Wine and Warpaint, is because it's one of those types of bands that just has a name that embraces the sound. It almost has this like added like advertising sense into it, to where you can kind of have that dual message where, Brandon, to go off of what you're saying, like you have those moments where like have songs that are heavy, maybe thematically, but then have this like softer, feel to it, or vice versa.
Right.
And how, when you guys are constructing songs, specifically dealing with lyrics, and how are you guys kind of taking those heavier themes and bringing them into maybe, groovy hooks, or even kind of like that ballad balance?
Yeah, man. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. I feel like that like kind of observation and insight is like beautiful. Just makes me feel really good. In terms of like, how do you take like the like kind of serious heavy themes and put it into hooks? That's more just, I think, for me at least, like a love and appreciation of the form itself. Like I love rock music, like so much. Like I can't overstate that. Like and for me, it's just like, that's the form that I connect with. And so like I make things catchy because that's what I connect with. Like that's the stuff that has like worked for me. And like I don't make things too catchy because that's what I don't like, then I don't connect with it as much. Like it's like I just really love the form of like pop structure, like this certain instrumentation, like electric guitars, bass drums, it's guitar music. And then like using that as the home base, branching off from there. But like for me, it's like I have felt the impact of well executed rock music when you take the form, do it really well, and then connect it with lyrics and ideas that are really, really potent and powerful. It's literally changed my freaking life. So like that's why I'm into it. That's why I'm doing it. Like that's why I put stuff in hooks. It's not even so much that I care about something being like sticking in your head. It's just like I found that that's the stuff for me that like punches. That's the stuff that connects. And so it's like I would much rather write a song about like I think like Half to Life, a song about just like not coming back from like a period of mourning as effectively as you want. And I'd rather have that be catchy and euphoric because that hits deeper for me than it would be to even just like to do it in any art form, like to say it on a podcast or to write it into like just poetry or whatever. It's just out of my respect and love of the form that I like kind of take those things and merge them.
Yeah. I think the only thing I would add is like not shying away from the heavy stuff is, I feel like, something that your writing does, and a lot of the people like in the band and that we surround ourselves with too. We're fortunate to have quite a few like art creative minded people.
That's right.
So, but just in that, I feel like everyone kind of doesn't shy away from saying the hard stuff, because sometimes it's better to come out and say it as it is than to try and like obscure it in a way, because most of the time you're actually going to find that more people will relate if you're just honest about where you're at, and they're going to feel less alone because they're going to be like, this person wrote a song about this thing that I'm going through. And like how meaningful that can be when you just meet people like exactly where you are. I feel like that's a big part of it too.
I was able to say confidently in a conversation recently, like there's not a Wine and Warpaint song that's not really authentic and really vulnerable. Like that's not to say that we'll never write a song like just for fun or whatever. I guess the Christmas song maybe would like, we did like a dumb Christmas cover, but like, I think I'm really proud of that. I like one thing that Taylor and I would always talk about all the way back in college is like, you can make like a pop banger, but you can also make a pop banger that's like about something serious, or not even serious, but something real.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, I shouldn't say serious, but I will say real.
Yeah.
I was like, that's always available. And so I'm proud at this point that I think the discography is all real.
Yeah. Well, that's one of your main principles, I would say too. All heart, no bullshit.
To a fault sometimes. I need to chill out sometimes.
We need more of it.
I think, I agree. I think that having open dialogues, and even if you have a good hook, then sometimes it's like it gets like caught in your head, and it's just kind of like this practice of like rotation, and you're just waiting for something to essentially click. I think a great example of that is Third Eye Blind's Semi-Charmed Life. When you grow up,
you like look at the lyrics of that and you're like, whoa.
What?
It hits differently once you kind of understand like the meaning of it, but it presents this like open dialogue on addiction and the cost of it and the effects of it. And I think there's something really beautiful and in that, and we need to kind of be in a space where it can be okay to have these heavy dialogues, these heavy conversations, because they test friendships, they test us, and at the end of the day they also help us to grow.
Yeah, definitely. We push to that point on the full length, like there's some songs that aren't out yet that are going to that level of depth, like at kind of as deep as you, when shit happens to you, like, and it happens to all of us eventually. You live long enough and like something horrible happens, like it's just kind of the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But like we're trying to dig into it, not shy away from it, for sure.
Well, you guys can check out the brand new single. It's called Codify. The band is Wine and Warpaint. And you guys can also check out their entire other discography that we've kind of talked about over this course of this interview. Where can people find Wine and Warpaint online?
Everywhere at Wine and Warpaint. Our website, Wine and Warpaint, is a nice little hub that has merch and links and all of your preferred social platforms. And we're pumped to play this show. We've got an upcoming album coming out. We'll be releasing singles all the way up. Album comes out on June 14th. We actually have an official release date. So we'll be releasing music all the way up to then, playing a bunch of shows. So thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. What beautiful questions.
You guys can check out those links in the descriptions below, wherever you guys are currently watching this but you guys, as Brandon said, March 16th is our St. Patrick's Day celebration at Garden Grove Brewing Company here in Richmond, along with Bend the Knee. Wow, don't know how that happened.
Dude, I found this out recently. This happens if you use your iPhone as the
incredible.
So good. Anyway.
That's wild. Anyways,
interrupted your pitch.
the Get Off Bunker Hill Bloodbath will be making their Virginia debut. Dens will be making their long-awaited Richmond return.
They're back. They're back.
And these guys, along with Ben the Knee as well. And you guys can check out interviews with all of them. Check out their episodes on the podcast and more. But until next time, remember to stay classy.